Welcome to the South Bay FM Video Podcast. Join real estate broker Michael DeLay and Jeff Becker as they take you on a tour of one of San Diego's most vibrant communities, the South Bay. Michael and Jeff delve into the local real estate market and explore topics that matter to current residents, buyers, and sellers. Whether you're a longtime resident or considering a move to the area, this video podcast is your go-to source for all things South Bay. So sit back, relax, and let's shine a light on this amazing community.
Quick story, I was emailing with a person from England, and we were having a nice chat, and they asked, where are you from? And my first thought was, I'm going to say San Diego, so that I said, no. I put Chula Vista, because it's time for people to start knowing the name Chula Vista.
It's the 77th largest city in the United States.
First thing is Salt Lake City, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, like John always says too, now Chula Vista is going to have a skyline.
Yeah.
I mean, how amazing is Gaylord and then the Pacifica project,
all we had
Amara
is the Norman
Bay.
Center, right?
Oh my! And then north of Gaylord, they're looking at doing a project with MTS and doing a joint project on the north side. So it's literally going to have three $1 billion projects going on at the same time. It's a super exciting time. I'll have to say I'm so proud of my husband. I cannot be more happy for him. When the night we won the election, and I say we, you were saying earlier, how do we stay married? Yeah. John and I are a total team.
You are a total team. That's why we wanted you both here.
I have walked precincts for him. I have probably walked every house in Chula Vista multiple times. I see people that I've walked, their door numerous times, and we become friends now. And I have to say, when he first started running for office, I was a little nervous to walk precincts, but I was always pregnant when he ran for office, it seemed.
Well, and I have to tell you, the story was really funny because what would happen is when we'd walk precincts together, I'd drop her off on one side of the street, and then I'd drive to the other side. And then we'd sort of go back, and then as we crossed our paths, I'd give her the keys so then she could come and drive and pick me up. And it was so funny because she would be pregnant maybe 6 or 7 months. And I still remember this one hot day, and I'm knocking on every door, and nobody's, they see this guy out there, and they're not going to answer the door, and they're not going to talk to me. And maybe one person opened the door, and that was it. And then on the other side, my wife, who's clearly pregnant, is getting the door opened every time because people are like, oh, there's this pregnant lady there.
Offering me water. Oh my gosh, offering me water. Yeah, John always, he tells the story once he was knocking on this, talking to this one lady for, 10 minutes and, just trying to really connect with her and everything. And he's like, I almost gave up. And he goes, she turned my flyer over and there was a picture of you pregnant on it. And she goes, oh, your wife's pregnant? And he goes, yeah. And she goes, I'll vote for you.
Nice. I have to give a compliment to both of you because, what we've learned, what I've learned from knowing you is these big projects just don't happen overnight, right? The bigger the project, it just takes time. It takes dedication and commitment, and there's ups and downs and surprises. And you guys have stood steadfast, and you deserve the praise for and some credit for the benefits that we're seeing now. So thank you so much.
We were talking, obviously, just before we got onto the podcast, and we were talking about how involved you are, John, in the community, how you're just about every function that if you're invited, you tend to show up. So thank you for coming tonight, too. But it's amazing how involved both of you are. And I mean, I know that you are so involved in the community, and so many people that I know you're playing bunco with.
Oh, yeah.
You're doing different things, and that's just fun stuff. I have a question because you were talking about the power plant, and I know they were originally going to be putting condos and townhomes, and then a flurry a few months ago came out right as the soccer was getting ready to be announced for Snapdragon Stadium, and I think Machado is a part of the ownership, but they were talking about putting a potential stadium right there in Chula Vista, right where the power plant was. Have you heard or have you had any additional discussion on that, or is that something that they're looking into currently?
Yeah, so a great comment. So obviously we have the Gaylord project. South of that's going to be the Pacifica project, Amara Bay, which is actually going to have housing in it. And then north of that, it's going to be on the other side of the 5, but where the East Street Trolley Station is and the old city courtyard, that's going to be the Bayview project. And that's going to have all the way from affordable housing to market rate housing and have a really nice, some high rises, another hotel, and then a medical center there.
Oh, wow.
So south of that then is the power plant site, which you're referring to. And we've had a proposal come to the city of Chula Vista and the Port District to potentially put a stadium there. Now, we know that the Petra, who was actually in competition for a MLS soccer franchise. Unfortunately, they didn't receive the MLS franchise that was given to another group, the Mansour Group, and Saquon, and they're going to play at Snapdragon Stadium. But Petra is still interested in potentially building a stadium. And I think there are definitely opportunities there if they did build a stadium. I still bullish that, again, if you build a nicer stadium, maybe the MLS team would want to play there. When you look at the other teams, you have the Wave, that is another team. You have the Legion, the rugby team. And then ultimately, this is an idea that I've always thought about, is why don't we have a Mexican Premier League team in Chula Vista, and just like the Major League Baseball, you have the Toronto Blue Jays, and they're in Canada, but they're still part of the American Major League Baseball. Same with the NBA, you have the Toronto Raptors. So there's potentially a whole different host of teams and opportunities that it could happen. And I think having a stadium on the Bayfront would be a great idea. Now, again, they're in the beginning process. We're hoping they'll move forward, but I have to be optimistic. If they could do it, I think it would be a tremendous asset for the city of Chula Vista. Plus, then you have the Olympics coming up, and you have the World Cup coming up. That's part in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So there would be plenty of uses in the future for that stadium.
In fact, you were the one about 10 years ago trying to save the Chargers in San Diego and trying to keep them in Chula Vista, probably at that same site.
Oh, yeah. The Chargers did a study, and it would have been a great place to put a stadium. Unfortunately, I think the ownership of the Chargers, they just really wanted to leave, and their team value went from $1 billion in San Diego to $2 billion in Los Angeles.
But they're not liked anymore.
Yeah, well,
They lost
and they're
me.
just renting.
I
that
became a
stadium.
Raider fan.
Well, and that was one of their big things, is they wanted to be able to own their own stadium. All the NFL owners, they share all the TV revenue and things like that, and where you really differentiate yourself as a NFL team is by owning your stadium. You control the advertising in the stadium, the naming rights of the stadium, the parking, the luxury boxes. Those are really where you can get additional revenue. And obviously, all you have to do is look at Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys and what he's done with his stadium. And now you have SoFi with the Rams, but being a tenant with another team isn't always as lucrative. So we'll see what happens. I'm always optimistic, and I still cross my fingers that maybe the Chargers would want to come back to San Diego.
Hopefully with different ownership.
Get some new owners with some money.
The great part about the one that they're looking at south of Amara Bay is that he was going to pay for everything. There was no public money, which is huge. I mean, that's an unbelievable benefit. And really, when you look at the way the Bayfront is shaping up right now, you put the Amara Bay project right there with the luxury high-rise buildings, which are going to be phenomenal. Roughly 1,500, 1,600 units. They're going to have bay views. Absolutely phenomenal buildings, 7 residential towers. I think those are going to be, something similar to Coronado Shores. It won't be a facility itself, but each building will be standalone. But they're going to be phenomenal units. And I think you put that next to something like, the stadium on the south. You've got Gaylord to the north. It's quite a breathtaking view at that point.
We want to be respectful of your time. we could talk to you guys for hours and hours. Seriously,
I would love to do that.
Well,
So you're welcome
the
back.
wife never gets the mic,
Yes,
so I
you-
have to say,
Yes.
that's how you get married to an elected official. You let him do most of the talking, and you smile anyway.
We'd love to have you guys back. But one of the things we were talking about before we started the camera rolling was, I think Mike had a great point. It would be useful if we could talk about for a few moments, how does somebody get involved? Whether they in the future they want to be an elected official or just to learn more about the city and how it runs, etc. What suggestions
So
do you
John
have?
served on the Planning Commission actually before he was elected, and the Housing Advisory Commission. After he was elected, I served on the Child Care Commission. There's a ton of boards and commissions at the city that are currently actually looking for applicants.
So
and I
these are
volunteer
groups
positions. They
that
meet
people can apply.
Correct. Meet
and-
monthly, weekly, depending on the group. It's a volunteer position. There's a group of people that are interviewed, and you kind of apply for the area that you want. Like I said, I did the Child Care Commission. It turned into I don't think it's child care anymore. It's child advocacy or something. But we were actually instrumental in bringing the Day of the Child. When I was on the commission, that was the one thing that we implemented was the Day of the Child that takes place down on 3rd Avenue Memorial Park, and brings families together with booths for people who have child care and child-related businesses, and down for a day of fun. And so different groups do things. There's Cultural Arts Commission. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can do.
And you
that
can
are
find out
interesting
about
to you.
these from the
Yes,
city website?
Exactly.
Yeah, on the city website, or again, you can email me at McCann, MCCann at chulavistaca.gov. And we need people to serve on boards and commissions. They really are the heart of how we move legislation forward, and good ideas to be able to help the city get improved. Awesome. And we have all the way from, again, the Planning Commission, Housing Commission, Parks and Rec Commission, the Traffic Safety Commission, and there are ways where if you think that you could help, or maybe something that's bugging you, most of those commissions give you the opportunity to look and find solutions on that. And then I would also say the biggest thing is just get involved. Whether if you're a veteran, I would highly suggest that you join one of the local veterans group. We have the American Legion, the Veterans of Foreign War, the Fleet Reserve Association. We have the Marine Corps League, and then other organizations where, again, that are nonprofits that really just are here to help. And how do we improve as a community? We all just do our part at being able to serve and finding something where we really enjoy doing, and that makes the community better.
Speaking of, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Thank you. Honored to serve.
One thing that I really noticed, and it's, I think since COVID, which has been really, I think, instrumental in a lot of the growth of the community activism and community support. I love these Facebook pages that show up, and they become these really like groups. They meet now. One is like East Lake Food to Go. Katya Callahan started that. She did a phenomenal job of bringing together food industry people who were cooking out of their home during COVID to make ends meet. People who started bakeries out of their home, things like that. Then they end up getting a front, a storefront where my husband goes and does the ribbon cutting. And it's been pretty amazing to watch these groups grow, because like her group in particular, they meet, I think, monthly, and they have 40 or 50 people show up. They all bring food. It's awesome. And it's become these little communities, these Facebook pages, and it's really important and impressive. And I think it really is an easy way for you to go online, look at the Chula Vista pages that are out there, start one of your own. If there's nothing that you see that, entices you or kind of is near and dear to your heart, start one, and more people will come into your fold and make friends that way. It wasn't around when I was newly married. I see all the moms groups and things like that, and how great I see moms posting and saying, hey, I'm new to the area, and I'd like my child who's like 7 and 9 to make some friends, who wants to have a play date. Yeah. And these moms are connecting, and other people that go on there and say, where I'm having a really tough time right now. I just lost my job. I'm a single mom. I'm not looking for a handout, but I'd love to have, some ideas for, giving my child a birthday party that I can afford. And these moms are like just, coming to help out, and nobody's feeling, bad about it or anything else. And it warms my heart to see the outreach from all the moms and families and people supporting other people. Marlo Martinez is a great example too. He goes out into the community and he really finds people in need and he helps serve them. He's coaching one of the, I think, softball teams right now that's headed to the championships this weekend. Wow. And it's just a really fun thing to watch. As a member of Chula Vista and as the wife of now the mayor, it's been pretty amazing just to see the positive community love that is out there right now in Chula Vista. And it warms my heart because it's like, like I said, this is where I'm born and raised. My grandfather was a dairyman and then a realtor in Chula Vista and Bonita, wow. And my mom grew up on a dairy here. And so it's just neat to watch the community just continue to grow and come together. And I always say, we're this huge city, 207, but we're a small town.
Yes. It
still is Mayberry. Nobody quite understands it outside of Chula Vista, and especially from the political, point of view, it's pretty funny because I just say to them, "Well, you don't know what you're talking about because it's Chula Vista." And being that we've walked door to door, we know because we know the people, and the people's hearts are really pure and genuine and caring, and it's. It's just a wonderful thing to experience. You all remember when John had his car accident 10 years ago, actually. Next week, actually, in a few days, it'll be 10 years ago. And prayers were for you there. Yeah, that was the number one thing. Everybody was, the following year when he ran for office, we prayed for your husband, and it was very, heartwarming, and it's been an amazing journey the last 25 years with this man here. But yeah, it's just through love and dedication and supportive community, because even during the worst time of our life, during that time, which he remembers none of, he gets the joy of not having to remember it. I do. But the outpouring of support was phenomenal.
I've talked to some firefighters that remember it vividly too. Yeah. So you were in some trouble.
A year after his accident, he actually saw the fireman who pulled him out, and he burst into tears when he hugged John. He said, "I didn't think you were going to open your eyes ever again." Wow. So it was pretty amazing. But yeah, we're appreciative of our first responders. I don't know if you guys know the story of his accident, where one of the things that he did right before his accident, a couple of years before his accident on the city council, one of the last votes he took was to put paramedics on board the fire trucks. It was kind of his pet project.
Before I went to Iraq.
Yeah, and it was one of his pet projects on the city council. He wanted to really put paramedics on board. We were one of the only cities that didn't have active paramedics on board. So when a fireman showed up, they could only pretty much take your pulse and vitals. They couldn't administer any medical attention to you. And so right before he was off the council and termed out, he made a motion to put the paramedics on board. It passed. And then a few years later, while he was on the school board, it went through the process. 45 minutes before his accident, the fire department got a call to make your paramedics active.
Oh my gosh!
So his call was the first call that had a paramedic on board the fire truck.
Oh my God!
That's unbelievable.
And literally saved his life. I mean, it was pretty amazing. So it was kind of like, the joke was, did you know you saved your own life?
Wow!
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
wow.
That's like goosebumps moment right there. That's God's actions right there.
I'm telling you, it was all planned far ahead, and it's everything happens for a reason, I say, and you never know the reason. We might die and never know the reason for some things, but everything happens for a reason. So,
one thing we know for sure: you're lucky to have each other, yes. And as a community, we're lucky to have both of you.
Thank
for
you.
sure.
Thank
you so much.
Well, I know your time is precious. I'm going to ask one more question, and John, and then Jeff has a little bit of a speed round. Oh, okay, cool.
Let's go.
So the one thing that I had that I thought maybe you could share, because we're talking about so many things, and I started my work in service into the community so many years ago in the Chula Vista Recreation Department, and I just saw that you were doing a grand opening. Speaking of all the different places you go, and you did the Lauterbach grand opening. But can you talk a little bit about how important and how they can maybe get active and utilize all the parks and the opportunities within the city, maybe get their first job there like I did? How is it available to people, and how do they find it and really get to be part of the community if they're just moving here or they've been here but don't know how to do it? This is a good opportunity for them to hear it.
You go on the Chula Vista City website, look at the positions there. We have extra jobs, obviously, during the summertime for students who'd like to work, to be able to be involved with our Parks and Rec department. And the great thing about the city of Chula Vista is when I grew up, you sort of had the varsity soccer team, but you didn't have junior varsity. And now you have the soccer team, varsity, junior varsity, and freshmen. And then you didn't have field hockey. You have all these different, you have lacrosse now. So there's a huge demand for sports and sports fields. And so the biggest thing is just try to volunteer, get active, look at the city website, see what events are there, look at the jobs on the city website. We're a very, very active town. And all you have to do is look at what we've done with our Little Leagues. We had the Parkview Little League when the World Series. We had Eastlake that went ahead and won the U.S. World Series, and then we had the Sweetwater Valley go to the playoffs to the Little League also. So 3 different organizations in the Chula Vista area, and it just shows you how strong our youth sports are and how active our community is.
In full disclosure, my son works right now for the Parks and Rec department too.
Awesome.
And he's loving it. That's his first job. So it's been
father, like son.
Father,
That's
like
great.
son. Except for he's way smarter. He took after the wife too.
There's another really good thing for business owners to get involved with, people who are just starting out. There's some really great farmers markets that have started up, and even beyond, like, just, I don't know if they're farmers markets, like, I don't know what Melena would call her markets, but they're just community markets. And it's more than just, fruits and vegetables. There's these booths that you can rent. You can go in there, bring your business out to the community, and they're popping up everywhere. And it's been really popular, great responses. There's one, Melena Lowe, a good friend of ours, who's moving around from area to area and kind of having them in different shopping centers and things like that. She had them at the Otay Ranch Mall for a while. And a lot of different opportunities. So if you're a small business, beginning and wanting to get your feet wet, and she also hosts some for children. So she does a child's entrepreneur one. So kids, like our 18-year-old actually crochets and makes these little cute stuffed animals, and she's also a baker and all that. So we're trying to encourage her into doing something like that too. Teaches them the responsibility of having a business, interacting with people, which I think is hugely important for our children now, especially with stupid phones and all these devices they're reading. The art of speech is gone, the art of talking is gone. And teaching our children to interact with adults and other people their age and older than them in a respectful manner and in a business-like manner, I think is so important. I think one of the biggest challenges for our children, even our kids who already went to college, is creating what we all grew up with, was that interpersonal connection, and business is still person to person. And I think we often forget that. So those opportunities, I think, are great, and they're all over the city.
And one other thing that's Parks and Rec that I go by every once in a while, I get to ride my e-bike because I couldn't do it anymore without an e-bike. But I go out on the Otay Lakes, and there's the Olympic Training Center, but it's no longer the Olympic Training Center. It's called the Chula Vista
Elite Training Center.
Elite Training Center. And how could people utilize that, or is it not something that's open to the public?
Well, it is open to the public. We had a little change. The Olympic Association in the United States looked at the different Olympic training centers throughout the United States and said, realized that they were losing a lot of money on each one of these. And when they listed the different sites, they found out that they were losing the most money in Chula Vista. And so they came to us, it's city property, city land, and they said, hey, we're just going to leave, and then you can just have the area. And we said, no, we don't want to do that. We want to be able to still have Olympic athletes there. We understand you're losing several $1 million a year, so let's figure out a way to be able to have a third-party trust run it and do things like when we had the Olympic Center there were a whole bunch of restrictions because of who could actually train there. Also sponsorships. If they were sponsored by Coke, then you couldn't have Pepsi come in and sponsor an event. So we had Point Loma Trust come in, and they're running it. And with the Olympics coming up, I think they're doing a really good job at being able to bring people there. With the Elite Training Center, it's more, again, of being able to give the athletes their opportunity to get ready to compete. But there are tourism opportunities, and we are looking at opportunities and ways to be able to utilize that for the community. Because what we want to do is, before it wasn't as much part of the community, we want the Elite Training Center to be part of the community, where they will interact with our members, and members in our community will be able to go out there and interact.
You know, I had never seen. So I was just riding my bike out there. It was a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday afternoon. I can't remember which day, but they had kayak races, and I'd never seen kayak races. But I had to take a little break and just watch this amazing thing. And then I kept driving until we got to the over to the Chula Vista Training Center, the Elite Training Center, and there were hundreds of athletes that were. It was an all-female kayaking day, and they were running. They were in such great shape. It was amazing. I mean, for anyone that has not been out there, I would encourage you just to go see that amazing, beautiful lake, how full it is, and check that out.
Who wouldn't want to train there, right? It's amazing.
It's amazing. It really is.
And so one of the things that I'm going to be doing in September is I'm going to be doing the State of the City. And I want to change things up. Instead of going down to City Hall, in the city council chambers, I want to go out and make sure that we're highlighting some of the great assets in the city. And so I'm going to be having my first State of the City at the Elite Training Center.
Great.
And so that's going to give people an opportunity to go there to see what a great facility that is, and to be also able to celebrate our athletes and the Olympic opportunities that we experience out there.
What a great idea. I'm glad you're doing that. And it is amazing. And yet our city hall, which we grew up with, that was so small and so dingy looking all growing up. And then it's so beautiful now, and such a great, also major remodel and build that happened there too. So that's another great location actually with what we've done for our city. So,
well, thank you again.
Thank you.
We would love to have you back if you guys would ever be coming back and maybe give updates to the city as new projects are coming on. We'd love to have you guys. So.
Yeah. To all our viewers, when you see this amazing episode, please hit the like and subscribe button and give us some feedback. Thank you so much again.
You bet. We'd love to come back.
Thank you.
Thank you.